Okay, so think about this. Nearly 4 hours long.
Yeah.
A budget of $15 million back in the late 50s. Just wild.
Astronomical for the time.
And then it smashes records with 11 Academy Awards. Just, wow.
It really set a benchmark, didn't it?
Totally. So today, we're diving deep into Ben-Hur, the 1959 epic.
That's right.
What is it about a film this huge, from that era, that still grabs people?
Well, that's what we're going to try to unpack. We've got this great review to work from, and it really helps peel back the layers.
That stuff.
Our goal here isn't just to talk about, the chariot race everyone knows.
Right.
It's about getting into the guts of why Ben-Hur still feels so, powerful.
Absolutely. So for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it or it's been a while, the review sets the scene nicely.
Okay.
We're in Judea around the time of Christ, and the core story revolves around Judah Ben-Hur.
A Jewish prince, respected.
Exactly. But then his childhood friend, Messala, shows up again.
And he's not just a friend anymore, is he? Now he's a Roman tribune.
Yeah. And that's where everything changes. Politics, friendship. Yeah. It all just explodes.
A huge betrayal follows.
Huge. Ben-Hur gets falsely accused, ends up a slave on a Roman galley ship. Talk about a fall from grace.
It's incredibly dramatic, and the review points out how the film shows that the initial fall, then this really long, hard journey.
Towards getting justice, right?
Initially, yes.
Yeah.
But eventually it becomes more about redemption. It's fascinating how his personal story plays out against these, massive historical and religious events happening in the background.
And like the review says, this isn't quick. It takes place over decades.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some rapid-fire revenge plot. You see years of his suffering, his resilience.
And then that twist where he saves the Roman consul during a sea battle.
Another huge spectacle the review mentions.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets adopted.
Which is the turning point, really.
Yep.
That's what allows him to return to Jerusalem.
As a completely different person, ready to face Messala.
And the performances are key here, as the review highlights. Charlton Heston as Ben-Hur.
He just embodies that, stoic but intense feeling, doesn't he?
He really does. You feel the weight of everything he's been through.
Yeah.
But Stephen Boyd as Messala, he's just brilliant. Because he's not, just mustache twirling evil.
No, you feel that history, that broken friendship underneath the conflict.
Exactly. The review calls him charismatic, calculating, and ultimately tragic. I think that hits it spot on.
Yeah, it really does. And it's not just them. You've got Jack Hawkins as the consul who adopts him.
Brings a warmth, a stability.
Right. And Hugh Griffith, who won an Oscar for his part.
Ah, yes. Sheikh Ilderim provides some much-needed humor, a bit of lightness.
Definitely. But something else the review notes, which is interesting, is how Jesus is portrayed.
Oh, right. You never see his face clearly.
Just glimpses, yeah.
Ah.
But his presence is called profound and pivotal.
And that's crucial, isn't it? Those subtle encounters Ben-Hur has, they build up. They influence his whole journey, his sort of moral compass shifts. It suggests it's not just about getting even with Messala.
There's something bigger at play.
A different kind of power, maybe a different way of thinking about justice.
Which brings us to the look of the film, William Wyler's direction. The review is obviously blown away by the scale.
That 65 millimeter widescreen.
Yeah. It just paints this incredible picture, they spared absolutely no expense creating this ancient world.
You can see the money on screen.
But let's be real, for a lot of people, it is about the chariot race.
It's iconic.
And the fact, stressed in the review, that it was all practical. No CGI.
A real-life stunt extravaganza with risky practical effects, I think was the quote.
It's just staggering to think about today.
It really is. Imagine the planning, the precision needed, the sheer nerve to stage that.
The review mentions they even buried guide rails under the sand for some shots.
To get those incredibly close calls, yeah. It shows a whole different kind of filmmaking craft, doesn't it? So meticulous, but also so dangerous.
Compared to just clicking a mouse, yeah.
And it's almost entirely without dialogue, that sequence. Pure visual storytelling conveying all that tension.
It absolutely holds up. One of the greatest action scenes ever, period.
The craftsmanship is just incredible.
And you can't talk about Ben-Hur without mentioning the music.
Oh, Miklós Rózsa's score. Another Oscar winner.
The review calls it monumental, majestic, spiritual, and emotionally rich. That covers it.
It really does. And it mentions the use of leitmotifs.
Right, those themes for characters or ideas that keep coming back.
Which subtly guide you, the listener, you know. They reinforce the emotion, the themes, sometimes without you even consciously noticing.
It just elevates everything, gives it that truly epic, almost mythical quality.
Absolutely. Music is so crucial in shaping how you feel watching a film, and this score is just a masterclass. It carries you through the highs and the deep lows.
So tying it all together, the themes, the review points to justice versus vengeance as being central.
Ben-Hur's journey from wanting payback to finding forgiveness.
Then faith and redemption, obviously linked to the presence of Christ.
Guiding him, subtly but powerfully.
And that idea of brotherhood and betrayal, Judah and Messala's story, the review calls it a personal microcosm of imperial rule versus personal loyalty.
Which is a great way to put it. And these themes, I mean, they're timeless, aren't they?
Totally.
That struggle between wanting justice and the corrosive effect of pure vengeance, that's universal.
Still relevant today.
And the search for meaning, for redemption, the role of faith, these are things people are always grappling with.
Now, the review does mention a few criticisms. It acknowledges the pacing might feel slow for some modern viewers.
Deliberate is maybe the word.
Yeah, deliberate. And maybe some dialogue feels a bit theatrical or melodramatic now.
Possibly. Tastes change.
It also notes the portrayal of Romans and Jews reflects the 1950s perspective, maybe not perfect historical accuracy.
And the religious element might be stronger than some viewers expect or prefer today.
True. But even with all that, the final verdict in the review is a perfect 10 out of 10.
A timeless, towering epic. And those criticisms are fair points to consider, you know? They show how films are products of their time. But, as the review concludes, the sheer ambition,
the craftsmanship,
the sort of undeniable sincerity of the film, it's hard to argue with. It's set out to be huge, and it absolutely was.
Okay, so let's just sort of wrap up the key things for everyone listening.
Right.
We've seen how Ben-Hur got that epic feel, the long run time, the massive budget back then, and those incredible practical effects.
Especially that chariot race.
Definitely. And the performances that really anchor the human story within that spectacle.
Heston, Boyd, they make you care.
And then those deep themes running underneath it all, justice, faith, forgiveness, betrayal, all playing out on this huge historical canvas.
Exactly. The review really helps you see it's not just about the big moments. It's Judah's personal journey, the suffering, the resilience, that eventual spiritual shift.
That's all woven into the fabric of the film alongside the spectacle.
Yeah.
Okay, but the real aha moment for me, reading the review and talking about it now, and hopefully for you listening.
Go on.
It's hammering home that the chariot race was real. Like real stunts, real danger, real coordination, no safety net of CGI.
It really puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
Totally. Just think about staging that. The risk, the planning. It just highlights a whole different era of filmmaking commitment. It feels so different from how you'd maybe approach that scene today.
That's a brilliant takeaway. It gives that sequence a kind of visceral edge that's really hard to fake. Even with modern tech, you feel the danger.
So for you listening, wanting that quick but solid understanding of Ben-Hur, hopefully this deep dive has given you that.
A concentrated look at why it's such a landmark film.
Yeah.
Moving beyond just the plot to the why.
Right. And maybe it leaves you with this thought to chew on. How does a film made way back in 1959, using completely different technology, different cultural norms, how does it still pack such a punch today?
That's the big question, isn't it? You have to think about those core themes.
Justice, betrayal, faith, forgiveness.
They don't really get old, do they? They're fundamental human things. They speak across time.
Makes you think. So look, if we've maybe piqued your interest,
maybe give it a watch.
Yeah. Set aside an afternoon or evening. Experience the sheer scale of it. Or perhaps check out some other epics from that time.
It's quite a rabbit hole once you start.
Definitely. But ultimately, Ben-Hur is this powerful reminder, isn't it, that even the biggest, most spectacular movies,
at their heart, they're driven by human emotions, human questions that last.
It's a legend for a reason. Hopefully, you now have a better sense of exactly why.